Welcome to FPL Selection. Today we will see how the team is shaping up for Game Week 29, but first a quick look at how we got on in Game Week 28. So a total score of 51 points and a small drop down to 1,356. So to be honest, I'm quite happy with that. I think it's a good week considering I got the captaincy wrong with Salah. We decided to go for the third week in a row with Palmer, and yeah, again it didn't work, so I think I was a little bit unlucky along the way, but obviously hearing about the Palmer illness and him coming off early, it was, obviously not to be, but yeah, got away with it, I think. Still got a few returns. Munoz with 6 points, got the clean sheet against Ipswich. Still owned Salah, got the 15 points from him, so it wasn't a complete disaster. It's going to be very brave people to go up against him with the captaincy, I think, going forwards. Just incredibly consistent. And then Pedro was my transfer in this week, and he got 9 points just from the one goal. So yeah, very pleased with that as well. That basically made the difference this week for me. So looking ahead now to Game Week 29, I'm going to do something a little bit different this week. Basically, I've got two options that I'm looking at, is to either play the free hit or the wildcard. I'm sort of 99% sure on that. So just looking at my current team, I've got 6 players who I think I'm pretty confident will start. And then the 7th being Vandenberg from Brentford, but he's just come back from injury, so I think at the best he's going to get sort of 1 point off the bench. So we're looking at probably 6, maybe a 7 in total. And I've only got 1 free transfer. So I think that it makes sense for me that I should free hit a wildcard first of all, because taking at least 2 hits just to field a team for this week seems, it just seems like it's a long shot to get those transfers right and make the points back. So, I mean, it was always my plan to free hit this week, but I do have a good side coming out of Game Week 30 onwards. I do have a nice setup. But I think looking ahead now with Alexander-Arnold injury and Lewis Hall injuries, that's 2 of the players I was going to keep going to be out. I mean, Hall's out for the season. Alexander-Arnold's probably going to miss a few weeks at the minimum. Haven't heard the update at the moment. But then I was also thinking with Liverpool out of the Champions League as well, you're sort of wondering, are they going to be on the beach early with the league title basically wrapped up? And yeah, I was just sort of looking at a few other players in my team, and Kunku I'm not so keen on now. And yeah, it's just not looking optimal for the end of the season. So as I was doing the free hit drafts, I could just see that I want to keep a lot of those players on a wildcard anyway. So I started doing a few wildcard drafts, and I sort of figured I could keep a lot of the players that I'd want going forwards and still get an 11 out this week. So I'm going to show both of the drafts that I've done and can sort of talk through my thinking and see where I end up when the deadline comes in on Saturday. So first up then, let's have a look at my current free hit draft. So as I said before, this was my original plan, was to free hit this week, and I've been making drafts for a few weeks now. I do have an okay team coming out of the other side that was well set up for at least 3 or 4 weeks, and then the plan was to sort of wildcard 33 or 34, depending how the sort of doubles and blanks end up coming with the FA Cup results. So this is where I sort of ended up. For me, I think the best defence, the fixture, with the best defenders this week's probably Forest against Ipswich. So I've gone for the double up with Sells and Milinkovic. Just think Ipswich, one of the weaker sides. Forest have been brilliant defensively, especially away from home. They don't tend to be too risky. They tend to sort of sit back and play on the counter, and I just think going for the double up makes sense to me. I prefer to go for their defence than their attack. I don't think they're, they might the odd game where they've been explosive and scored quite a few goals, but generally they're going to, you know, a low scoring team. They just keep it clean. So yeah, gone for the double up there. Gabriel stays in purely just for his potential from goals, from set pieces. He's highly owned as well, so it'd be typical that if I took him out on this free hit, he'd probably get his goal this week. He is probably due. He hasn't scored for quite a few weeks now, so yeah, being a home fixture as well, Arsenal very strong at home, so yeah, I think that makes sense to me. Then Kirkes at home to Brentford. He just very attacking really, in a very attacking Bournemouth team. Makes sense to have, you know, those players that got the potential for the 1 week to, you know, get the attacking returns as well as defensive clean sheets. So yeah, seems like a no-brainer there, Kirkes, for this one. Then Mbeumo again. I mean, that does sort of go against having a Bournemouth defender, but I just think Mbeumo's highly owned, and if I was to take him out this week, he'd probably end up scoring. I think he's one of the better midfield picks this week, just purely on being a talisman there for Brentford. And yeah, it was a high scoring fixture, the reverse fixture early in the season, so yeah, I've got 3 players from that game, which includes Kluivert. Yeah, no way I'm going to get rid of him, the form he's in at the moment. He definitely stays in for the free hit. Not much more to say on him really. Bruno Fernandes, Leicester away. I think that's the pick of the fixtures and the, you know, the best attacking option. So I probably would captain Fernandes if I was to free hit this week. He's hit a hat-trick tonight in the Europa League, and he's just stepping up for United at the moment and dragging them out of every hole possible. He's got the penalties. He can score from lots of different situations. So yeah, I think it makes sense to have Bruno as captain, and he'd definitely be in for me on a free hit. Then Palmer, again, I don't know how long I can be patient with Palmer, but I just know that once he gets that first goal again, get the confidence up. He's just such a quality player. You just can't go against him really. I think it would be silly to take him out on the free hit. I know it's Arsenal away, but I've got the budget there, so it's not really a question of budget in this free hit. So I'd rather keep, you know, the top players in there. Saying score in any game, and yeah, Palmer will be desperate to make up for the last few weeks. Then Chris Wood. I think Chris Wood's probably the other top pick of the attackers this week. Ipswich away. He's killed me so many times this season. I've never actually owned him, and yeah, I think it would be silly to go against him on this free hit. So again, he's sort of another coverage pick, going with a high ownership player there. And Ipswich away is obviously a nice fixture for attackers. Then Haaland is in. Obviously the budget not being an issue with a free hit. I think an elite player like that, you know, for 1 week, you want to have that type of player. Same situation with Palmer really. Maybe not in the best form and certainly not having as good a season this year, but we all know the quality of the player and what he can do. So, you know, if he just has a good day, gets the right service, that could easily be a hat-trick. And yeah, I think that's the sort of player you want, you know, in a free hit, is the potential there for a big haul of points. And yeah, Haaland can certainly do it. Then Pedro, I think I just talk about Pedro every week now, all the time, and everyone must be getting sick of it really, but just think, if it's another one, if I take him out, he'll probably end up scoring. He scored against City in the reverse fixture, and yeah, he's hit a nice little run of form at the moment. I mean, I could go Evan Nielsen. There is also Jimenez against Spurs. Maybe they're going to be tired, but yeah, I just think I'm going to keep Pedro, and he did well for me last week when I brought him in. So, I mean, that one could change close to the deadline, but Pedro's in for the moment. And then, as I said, the budget's not really an issue, so I've got a pretty strong bench there. Pickford's got West Ham at home. I mean, it's just a home game I've gone for there. Semenyo, another Bournemouth option. You know, if anyone doesn't make it, then it'd be nice to have a double on their attack. Robinson's got Spurs at home. Again, just someone that can get the attacking returns as well as the clean sheets. You know, plenty of options there for the points for the 1 week. And then Agbadou's just a 4 million budget option. I mean, I could upgrade him to someone else, but as you'll see in a minute, he's going to be in my wildcard draft as well. So I just wanted to show sort of how many players are in this free hit that you're going to see in my wildcard shortly. So yeah, let's move on and take a look at my wildcard draft. So as mentioned, you can see there a lot of the players that I had in the free hit draft would be in the wildcard. And I think, as you can see, that the benefit of this is I can still keep pretty much all of the players that are blanking that I'd want to keep. And that's sort of the trick to this wildcard is I can bench Salah, Isak and Munoz, and I can also have Henderson as a second goalkeeper. Now, obviously I'm going to want Isak for his double in 32, Munoz is the same, he's also got Southampton in game week 30. Salah I'm not going to sell until I see a strong reason to get rid of him, which doesn't look like coming anytime soon. And then Henderson would be there for the Southampton fixture in game week 30 and the double for Palace in 32. And they potentially have one in 33 as well. So if I end up not free hitting in the 33 game week, then Henderson would be there, potentially having a double. So yeah, that's why I've got him in there as the third Palace. Well, I say third Palace, but I bring in Mateta next week would be part of this plan, but I'll talk about that more in a moment. So as mentioned on the free hit, I do like the Forest defence for the rest of the season. They have got some tough games in the run-in, but the thing is they've really got something to play for. You know, they really want to hold on to their Champions League spot. So, you know, for them, they're going to be competing for almost every game until the end of the season, and their strength is their defence, so I think it makes sense to go for the double up. Gone for Sales in goal. I think that just is a nice set and forget. And then I've got Milinkovic in there. I mean, you could go Aina, you could go Murillo. Just think Milinkovic has got the threats from set pieces. He's got a few goals this season. But yeah, I mean, you could go for any of the three really of those defenders. Gabriel stays in. I think Arsenal got a nice run of fixtures for the rest of the season. I've had him the whole season pretty much, and yeah, he's just such a threat from set pieces. I think it just makes sense to have a little piece of the Arsenal defence. And Kirkes, as I mentioned earlier, very attacking. Bournemouth got a lovely run of fixtures until 34, and I think it's just having those attacking potential as well as defence. It's nice to have that option as well. Agbadou is the sort of 4 million budget option. He'll sit on the bench every week, but just need him for this game week 29. Southampton away is a good fixture, so Wolves are ever going to keep a clean sheet. You'd think that would be a game that they might be able to get one. Then I've gone for the double up on Bournemouth midfield, Semenyo and Kluivert. As I said before, Kluivert would be my number one pick without doubt now. He makes sense really with the penalties, and you know, he seems involved in everything. He's a creator as well as a goal scorer, so yeah, he'd definitely be my number one pick. And then probably my number two pick would be Semenyo or Evanilson. Semenyo just works in my structure here with the strikers that I want, so that's basically why I've gone for Semenyo really. He's the man that seems to get the most minutes, and yeah, I think it'd be nice to have the two of them there from Bournemouth. Fernandes is in on the wildcard at the moment. I mean, it's basically going to be for 2 weeks. You've got Leicester away is obviously the nice fixture. I'll probably end up captaining him as well, so yeah, as mentioned before, I think he's just the talisman for United, and it's probably the best fixture this week, so he'll end up moving on to Gordon in game week 31 when Newcastle play Leicester. So that's purely a Fernandes in for this week, and then I'll just hold on to him for one more week and move him on to Gordon. And then Palmer, as I said before, I'm going to be patient with Palmer. He'd be in on the wild card for me as well. I think I'll just keep him for the Spurs, Brentford, Ipswich games, and yeah, depending on how that goes, that's whether I'm going to get rid of him or keep him for the rest of the season. And Chris Wood, it'd be a bit like Fernandes. I definitely want him for this week, but I'd be moving him on to Mateta for game week 30. I think that Southampton fixture, and then obviously the double in 32 just makes sense to have Mateta. But I couldn't keep hold of him as well as Salah, Isak and Munoz, and then, you know, only have 10 players. I think it's worth taking the gamble there. Have Chris Wood for this week, hopefully get a few points, and then move him on to Mateta next week. Then Pedro stays in. I think he's actually going to be my 12th man in this squad for quite a few weeks. So obviously I'll need him this week, and then he'll probably be benched until 32 when they play Leicester. And then there's a potential for a double in game week 33 if Brighton get through the quarterfinals of the FA Cup. So he's such a nice price. He can sit there on the bench, or I can, if he continues to be in form, I can, you know, bench someone else for him. But yeah, it seems like a nice option for his price just to sit on the bench and rotate. So I think at the moment I am leaning more towards the wild card. Like I said, I think it's going to set me up nicely until at least game week 33, game week 34. And that's when I plan to play my free hit, depending on how the fixtures get rearranged, because there will be some doubles and blanks there, depending on the FA Cup results. So there's a potential scenario that I'm going to have plenty of players from the teams that get through, especially Bournemouth, Palace, Brighton. But if those teams don't go through, I've still got the free hit there, and you know, I can pick some nice doublers and then revert back to this team afterwards. So yeah, either way, should be able to manage the blank fixtures in 34 quite nicely with that method. And what I'm hoping to do is after Mateta and Gordon come in, is I can save a couple of transfers and hopefully sort of build up a few towards the end. I think there's going to be doubles in 36, so I'll be able to manage that as well with some free transfers. So that's it for this one. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.